Some quarterbacks rewrote the record books, but Marino invented them. Before the NFL turned into a passers league, he was already throwing for 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns in a single season, back when defenses ruled and quarterbacks were supposed to manage the game. He commanded his presence with a lightning-quick release, pinpoint accuracy, and swagger that made Miami electric. Marino transformed how football was supposed to be played, yet behind every highlight reel was a man who never won a Super Bowl, but still became a legend. This is the story of the golden arm that changed the game forever. The rise, the records, and the relentless fire is why there will never be another Dan Marino. Dan Marino grew up in the Oakland neighborhood of Pittsburgh. His block had narrow streets and row houses with alleys. Kids played ball until the streetlights came on. The city shaped him. It taught him that work matters. His father drove a truck for the newspaper. His mother ran the home and set clear rules. A friend's football flew tight and straight. He loved the feel of a ball leaving his hand and learned early that he could place it wherever he wanted. He went to Central Catholic High School. The school had a proud football program and asked students to keep up with classwork. Marino stood out because of his arm. Coaches saw a smooth delivery and a calm mind. He played baseball too, and the Kansas City Royals drafted him as a pitcher. He thanked them and chose football. He wanted third downs and noise, not minor league bus rides. In high school, he led the team to the state title game. He surprised them by picking the University of Pittsburgh, a program just a few miles from his home. At Pitt, Marino sat behind senior Rick Tricano for a few games before becoming the starter as a freshman. The game sped up, but he adjusted. He spent extra hours on film, learning how safeties move and how blitzes look before the snap. He practiced his footwork and worked to keep his release compact. By his sophomore year, he was throwing for big yards and leading comeback wins. The Panthers went 11-1 in 1981. They faced Georgia in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day, 1982. Pitt trailed late. On 4th and 4 with 35 seconds left, Marino took the snap, pumped once, and fired a 33-yard pass to John Brown. Brown caught it in stride for the winning touchdown. The 24-20 victory capped an 11-1 season and made Marino a national name. Writers praised his quick release and his nerve. Many predicted he would be the first pick in the 1983 NFL Draft. His junior season confirmed those opinions. Marino threw 37 touchdown passes and 2,876 yards in 1981. He made difficult throws look routine. He could drop a pass over a linebacker and in front of a safety. He could whip a slant past a corner's ear. With each win, his confidence and national profile grew. Pitt fans began to compare him to Hall of Fame quarterbacks. The offense improved under coordinator Joe Moore, and Marino's arm gave receivers time to separate. Several teammates later said they ran harder routes because they knew the ball would find them. Then came 1982. Injuries hit the offensive line. The running game struggled. Marino pressed. Defenses watched his eyes and baited him into throws. In a nationally televised opener against North Carolina, he threw interceptions, and Pitt lost. He finished the year with 17 touchdown passes and 23 interceptions. The Panthers still made the Cotton Bowl, but lost 7-3. Scouts who had raved about him began to question whether he read defenses well enough. Rumors spread about his off-field lifestyle. None were confirmed, but they hurt his draft stock. Gil Brandt of the Dallas Cowboys wrote in his scouting report that Marino had one of the quickest releases he had ever seen and good accuracy. Yet he could not understand why Marino had underperformed that season. Most expected him to be one of the first players taken, but doubts lingered. The 1983 draft turned those doubts into a long wait. Teams looked at other quarterbacks. John Elway went first, Todd Blackledge 7th, Jim Kelly 14th, Tony Eason 15th, and Ken O'Brien 24th. Each pick came, and Marino remained on the board. At last, the Miami Dolphins selected him with the 27th pick. Coach Don Shula had built a winning team around a strong defense and running game, but he saw Marino's arm and knew the offense could evolve. Miami fans were unsure at first. Critics said the Dolphins reached. Marino thought otherwise. He felt he had landed in the right place for his skills and for a chance to prove everyone wrong. A teenager whose arm drew crowds at Central Catholic, a college star who delivered a last-minute bowl win, a young man whose senior slump invited scrutiny, and a draft night that turned frustration into opportunity. The stage was set. Marino would bring his quick release and competitive fire to Miami, ready to shape the next era of football. People who watched him at Pitt could tell he was built for bigger stages too. Dan Marino entered the National Football League with a chip on his shoulder. On draft day, the quarterback class of 1983 captured national attention. He arrived in South Florida as a 22-year-old who already had the mechanics and moxie to run a professional offense. Now, he carried the experience of a bowl champion and the humility of a late first-round pick. From the moment he walked into the Dolphins facility, Marino approached the job like a veteran. He immersed himself in Don Shula's playbook. He asked why every route was drawn the way it was. He watched film until his eyes were sore. Early in the season, he stood behind David Woodley and learned how to take command of the huddle. In Week 6 against Buffalo, he stepped onto the field as the starter. The Dolphins lost that game in overtime, but Marino showed flashes of what was. He kept the ball high, trusted his reads, and delivered throws that made defenders twist their hips. Veterans on the line felt his quick rhythm and adjusted their protection to match his timing. By December, Marino's production and leadership had transformed Miami's offense. He finished his rookie campaign with a league-leading passer rating of 96.0 and guided the Dolphins to the AFC East title. His final stat line included 173 completions for 2,210 yards, 20 touchdowns, and just 6 interceptions. He posted the highest completion percentage among all quarterbacks at 58.45 and the lowest interception rate at 2.03. As the only rookie quarterback to lead his conference in passing since the merger, he proved he belonged. By mid-season, he was comfortable moving defenders with his eyes and delivering the ball before they could recover. Shula trusted his young signal caller to check out of bad plays and into good ones. Marino rewarded that trust by rarely taking sacks and by keeping drives alive with his arm. Recognition followed. Sports writers and players voted him into the Pro Bowl, making him the first rookie quarterback to start in that All-Star showcase. The Associated Press named him to the second-team All-Pro, a remarkable honor for a first-year player. He also received the AFC Rookie of the Year award from Sporting News. Those accolades reflected the respect he earned around the league for his poise and processing speed. Defensive backs who had studied his college tape were surprised by how quickly his release translated to the professional level. Team captains who had reservations about an unproven quarterback soon found themselves trusting him in 2-minute drills. Another piece of the Dolphins' future started to take shape as Marino settled in. Wide receiver Mark Duper, drafted the previous year, emerged as a deep threat. His speed forced safeties to respect the vertical route tree. Duper's 1983 season ended with a Pro Bowl selection and a second-team All-Pro nod. That recognition was an early sign of the chemistry forming between quarterback and receiver. In late October, the Dolphins introduced another weapon when rookie wideout Mark Clayton saw extended action. Clayton began the year primarily as a punt returner, but in a game against Buffalo, he threw a 48-yard pass to Duper on a trick play and later caught his first touchdown from Marino. Those two plays hinted at the Marks Brothers connection that would soon electrify Miami. The trust built on those simple roots would mature into one of the most prolific quarterback-receiver tandems in league history. For now, it provided Marino with reliable targets who could run under his high-velocity passes and make him look even better. The Dolphins closed the regular season at 12-4, riding Marino's arm and a defense that still carried memories of earlier Super Bowl runs. Their reward was a home game in the divisional round against the Seattle Seahawks. The rookie quarterback responded to the playoff stage by throwing 2 touchdowns while leaning on the same controlled aggression that defined his year. Seattle's secondary adjusted in the second half, baiting him into a pair of interceptions. The Dolphins fell 27-20, and the season ended sooner than South Florida had hoped. Marino walked off the field, frustrated, but not defeated. He told reporters afterward that he needed to protect the ball better when the stakes were high. His teammates heard his accountability and believed that bigger things were coming. Outside the locker room, fans and analysts debated whether Marino's rookie success was sustainable. Some argued that defensive coordinators would catch up to his tendencies once there was more film. Others believed his quick release and accuracy were traits that would endure. Inside the building, Shula and his staff planned how to build around their young star. They reviewed cut-ups to identify which concepts fit his eye best. They spoke with Duper and Clayton about spending extra hours on timing. Marino welcomed the attention to detail. He spent his offseason sharpening his footwork and studying how to manipulate safeties with small pump fake. Looking back, His first year did more than fill highlight reels. It changed expectations for what a rookie quarterback could accomplish. He processed information as quickly as veterans with 10 years of experience. He made throws that few quarterbacks attempted at the time. He handled pressure from both pass rushers and the weight of an entire city eager for another championship. Most importantly, he learned from his mistakes and used them as fuel. The playoff loss to Seattle became a lesson in risk management, a topic that would shape his approach in the years ahead. The glimpses of chemistry with Duper and Clayton promised fireworks to come. The second-team All-Pro selection showed he had already joined the elite tier at his position. As the curtain closed on the 1983 season, Miami's future looked bright. Their rookie quarterback had delivered hope, production, and a sense that more records were within reach. In the span of a few months, Dan Marino went from draft day afterthought to Pro Bowl starter. He put up numbers that seasoned passers would envy and proved he could carry a team to the playoffs. He built trust with his coach, his receivers, and his line. He tasted postseason disappointment and vowed to respond. The stage was set for an encore that would redefine passing in the National Football League. Dolphins fans would soon realize that 1983 was not the peak, but the spark that ignited a revolution in how offenses attack defenses. Marino had arrived, and he was just getting started. Dan Marino opened his second season, intent on proving he could carry a franchise. Don Shula had watched him process defenses as a rookie and decided to give him more freedom. Miami used wider formations and let Marino attack from the pocket. The quarterback responded with the most prolific passing season the league had seen. Over 16 games, he threw for 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns. Both numbers set single-season records. He also completed 362 passes, another mark at the time. At 23, he earned the league's Most Valuable Player award. The Dolphins went 14-2, averaged 30 points, and returned to the AFC Championship game. Against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he threw for 421 yards and 4 touchdowns, sending Miami to its second Super Bowl in 4 years. The record numbers came from precision as much as power. The 1984 ride ended in Palo Alto against San Francisco. Super Bowl 19 was billed as a duel between Marino and Joe Montana. The 49ers defense adjusted by disguising coverages and delaying safety rotations, forcing Marino to hesitate. Those pauses allowed the rush to arrive. San Francisco controlled the clock and kept Miami's defense on the field. Marino still threw for 318 yards and 29 completions, a record at the time. Yet the Dolphins could not finish in the red zone and lost 38-16. The loss exposed gaps in the roster and remains his only Super Bowl appearance. Marino returned home and went right back to work. The 1985 season showed his production was not a fluke. He threw for 4,137 yards and 30 touchdowns. He led the AFC in passing yards, completions, and touchdowns. The Dolphins went 12-4, but lost the conference title game to New England. Marino took responsibility for interceptions and said he needed to protect the ball when the stakes were high. In 1986, he continued his assault on the record book. He became the fastest quarterback to reach 100 career touchdown passes and finished with 4,746 yards and 44 touchdowns. For the third year running, he led the league in passing yards and scores. Injuries on defense hurt Miami. The team lost a wild card game to Cleveland, a reminder that offense alone cannot carry a team through January. The late 1980s showed his durability. In 1988, he threw for 4,434 yards and 28 touchdowns. The next year, he hurt his shoulder and missed his first start in 77 games, yet he still passed for 24 touchdowns on the way to an 8-8 season. Critics wondered if Miami depended too much on his arm. Marino believed his quick release and vision gave them the best chance to win. His partnership with Shula remained solid. They refined protection and found easy completions when defenses sat back. Even when the record hovered around .500, his numbers stayed near the top of the league. By 1989, he had led the NFL in passing yards 4 times. He had made 6 Pro Bowls and earned first-team All-Pro honors 3 straight years. His connection with Duper and Clayton was one of the most productive in the game. Still, championships remained elusive. Injuries, defensive lapses, and missed kicks kept Miami from returning to the Super Bowl. Marino acknowledged those shortcomings, but never used them as an excuse. He kept attacking downfield because that style suited his strengths. The season of 1984 proved what was possible when everything lined up. The years that followed showed he could sustain excellence even when circumstances shifted. He carried the Dolphins with his arm, even as the roster changed. He never reached another Super Bowl, but he forced coaches across the league to rethink how they call games. Marino's mid-1980s run remains one of the greatest stretches of quarterback play the sport has witnessed. Throughout these years, fans packed the Orange Bowl and later Joe Robbie Stadium to see him throw. His release looked like a flick, and the ball carried 60 yards. Young quarterbacks copied his footwork, and coaches studied his mechanics. His games became must-see television. While he lacked a ring, his imprint is undeniable. The NFL of today, with its spread formations and quarterbacks throwing 50 times, owes a debt to Marino and the Dolphins of the mid-1980s. He showed that you can throw to win, and that a passer with courage and timing can change a sport. He inspired a generation of players and fans. That legacy outlasts any single trophy. You remember the early Marino: fast release, fireball throws, points on command. The late 80s told a different story. He still punished secondaries, but Miami wobbled around him. In 1988, he threw for 4,434 yards and 28 touchdowns. The arm never cooled. The record landed at 6 wins and 10 losses. You watched a star carry a roster that could not keep pace. It was a lesson in how hard it is to win when the support dipped. Marino kept attacking. He refused to let the standard fall. The tape from that season shows the traits that made him special. He beat pressure with timing and nerve. He found Mark Clayton on deep post. He hit Mark Duper on go routes. He worked tight ends on outs and sticks. The offense scored enough to win many weeks. The defense broke at bad moments. Close games slipped away. You can feel the frustration in the box score. You can also feel the resolve that kept him steady. The next few years turned into a grind. Miami shuffled voices on offense. The run game sagged. Opponents dared the Dolphins to throw 50 times. They lived with the hits. Marino never blinked. He took what the coverage gave him. He kept the offense upright with audibles and fast answers. There were Sundays when he needed to be perfect. He came close. It still was not enough to push deep into January. He practiced hard. He held teammates to detail. He refused to let the room lose belief. Then a shift arrived. The roster steadied. The outlook brightened. In 1992, he found a groove again. He cut down the risky throws. He moved the chain. He helped Miami win the division and reach the conference title game. That run felt like a return to form. The ball came out on time. Receivers separated. The defense held firm. The city believed a window had reopened. Marino looked like the best pure passer in football again, not because of fireworks, but because of control. That title game at home carried weight. Marino stood at the podium and owned it. No excuses. Get back to work. That message set the tone for the next season. The football gods tested him a year later. In 1993, he dropped back in the Superdome. He planted. He felt a pop in his leg. The Achilles tendon tore. He crumpled to the turf. He missed the rest of the season. For a pure passer who lived in the pocket, that injury threatened more than a few games. It threatened his base. Driving the ball starts with trust in that step. Without it, timing phrase. Rehab started the next morning. He attacked it with the same focus he used on third and long. Picture the rehab room. Bands on the floor. Ice in the tub. A steady pace of slow steps. Then more steps. Then footwork with a ball in his hand. He rebuilt strength and rhythm. He let the mechanics carry him when the leg felt foreign. He watched film and sharpened his pre-snap reads. That way he could throw earlier and take fewer hits. The calendar turned. The tendon held. He circled the opener in ink and told the trainers he would be ready. He returned in 1994 and played like he never left. The spiral still stung. He hit windows before defenders could flip their hips. The game that defined the comeback arrived in New Jersey. Time was running. The clock showed seconds. The offense rushed to the line. Everyone expected a spike to stop the clock. Marino saw the corner relax. He called for the ball and fired to the sideline. Touchdown. The fake spike sealed the win over the Jets. It was simple. It was bold. It was pure quarterback craft. That moment polished his legend. The season still ended the hard way. Miami played San Diego in the divisional round. The Dolphins built a lead with sharp throws and clean protection. The Chargers rallied with long drives and a bruising tempo. Late in the fourth, Miami needed one more kick to survive. The snap came. The hold went down. The ball sailed wide. Season over. The locker room fell quiet. Marino met the media and gave credit to the opponent. He praised his kicker. He took the blame for the chance that slipped. He did not look for a shield. He stood in it. That stretch of years tells you who he was. He stood tall during losing seasons and posted elite numbers. He led a new run to the conference stage. He suffered a serious injury and worked his way back. He returned with force and delivered one of the smartest plays you will ever see. The outcomes varied. The approach did not. Prepare. Trust your read. Cut it loose. When the roster dipped, he kept the bar high. When the tendon snapped, he trusted the grind. When the moment begged for a spark, he created one. So the mid-career verdict is clear. Marino endured. He adapted. He kept Miami in the fight. Titles stayed out of reach, but the standard never slipped. If you want a picture of toughness that needs no speech, watch the fake spike. Watch the rehab clips. Watch the throws that cut through wind in December. That is a quarterback in full. That is a career that teaches patience and grit and clarity under fire. It is not perfect. It is true. The late 90s asked Dan Marino to prove he could win in new ways. The arm still fired. The release still flashed, but his legs no longer moved the same. The roster turned over. The system leaned on short timing routes and quick decisions. He adjusted without complaint. He studied more. He trusted his eyes. He threw on time and kept the chains alive. Milestones arrived as the years stacked up. In 1996, he crossed 50,000 passing yards. No quarterback had reached that mark before him. The number felt like a mountaintop. It also felt like a checkpoint. He kept going. He worked through sore knees and nagging hits. He stayed available. He kept Miami relevant in a conference that shifted every season. By then, defenses had caught up to many spread concepts. They disguised coverage late. They rolled safety help over deep threats. Marino answered with precision. He beat tight windows with velocity. He moved safeties with his eyes. He taught younger receivers how to sit in zones and how to stem a route. He mentored. He still demanded sharp routes and clean breaks. He still barked when the details slipped. Teammates respected the standard because he held himself to it first. The 1997 season brought more tests. Miami won ugly at times. The defense carried some weeks. Marino carried others. He managed the pocket with quiet feet and small resets. He knew where his hots lived. He threw away plays rather than force panic throws. You saw an old master at work. The fireworks faded in volume, not in quality. The ball still arrived where only his receiver could touch it. In 1998, he hit another barrier that once seemed out of reach. He threw his 400th touchdown pass. He did it with the same flick that defined his 20s. No celebration lasted more than a heartbeat. He tapped helmets. He went to the sideline. He grabbed the tablet. He planned the next drive. He knew records mattered. He also knew the goal remained the same. Win the game in front of you. His final season came in 1999. He opened with renewed energy. He claimed AFC Offensive Player of the Week twice. He beat tight coverage with back shoulder throws that showed perfect touch. He hit seam routes with enough steam to split a bracket. He read pressures and turned them into quick wins. He moved the ball late in halves and stole points. The body did not always cooperate. The right arm still did. That team fought into January and then faced a wall in Jacksonville. The day unraveled fast. Field position flipped. Turnovers snowballed. The score became lopsided. Marino kept throwing. He kept standing in and taking hits. He tried to find a spark. It never came. When it ended, he handled the loss with grace. He praised the opponent. He refused to blame anyone. He met reporters and owned the night. He knew he had given the game everything he had. He also knew the clock had run out on his time as a player. He retired before the 2000 season. He left the field with numbers that towered over the record book. He held the marks for completions with 4,967. He held the mark for passing yards with 61,361. He held the mark for touchdown passes with 420. He made the Pro Bowl 9 times. He claimed 6 AP All-Pro honors. Those facts underscore a simple truth. He produced at the highest level for a very long time. Yet his legacy does not stop at numbers. It lives in how he changed the pro passing game. He showed that a quick release could beat perfect coverage. He proved that you could build an offense around timing and volume throws and still win big. He forced defenses to morph into sub-packages and disguise looks on almost every snap. Coordinators built playbooks that treated the ball like a weapon from the first minute. Young quarterbacks copied his footwork and his shoulder fakes. Many who came after him broke his records because he helped open the path. His story also lives beyond the field. In 1992, he and his family launched the Dan Marino Foundation after his son Michael received an autism diagnosis. The foundation raised millions for research and services. It helped families find resources. It funded programs that taught life skills and job training. Marino used his name for a cause that mattered to him. He showed the same focus you saw on third down. He set goals. He tracked outcomes. He built partnerships that lasted. Recognition followed in time. The Pro Football Hall of Fame welcomed him in 2005. The ceremony felt like a reunion. Coaches told stories about his command in the pocket. Teammates praised his work ethic. Opponents described the fear that came with defending a throw you could not stop even when you knew it was coming. Marino thanked his family. He thanked his coaches. He thanked the city that embraced him. He kept the speech simple and direct. That fit the way he always carried himself. You can measure his career in milestones and in moments. The first start that turned a season. The moonball to Mark Duper that split two safeties. The no-look hitch to Mark Clayton that froze a corner. The fake spike win that defined his competitive edge. The comeback from injury that proved his grit. The last walk from the field when he waved to fans and closed a chapter with dignity. You can also measure it in lessons. Master your craft. Work on the details that no one sees. Speak up when standards slip. Own the ball when it matters. Keep perspective when it hurts. Celebrate your people. Give back. These ideas guided his huddle. They still guide his life. The end of his playing days did not end his influence. Fans in Miami still wear number 13 with pride. Quarterbacks still study his base and his release to this day. Broadcasters still use his games to teach timing and anticipation. The league still reflects the ideas he pushed into the mainstream. So the final drives did more than run out the clock. They framed a legacy that reaches past wins and losses. They showed a pro who adapted, who mentored, who kept swinging till the last snap. They gave space for reflection and for service. They left the sport with a blueprint for modern passing. When you say his name, you do not need a long pitch. You see the flick, you see the seam, you see a standard that endures.